Welcome to Mondays with Vish. Going early today. Botan is out. Shout out Botan. See you around. Vish came on earlier with a button-up shirt. I just want everyone to know that Vish was dressed up. I made the choice to go casual today because Vish is on summer vacation. I felt in honor of Vish, for at least one day, we should go a little casual. It's like 80 degrees in Oakland right now. I don't know how it is in Chicago.
It's like 45, 50.
Are you serious? That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, sorry. It's coming eventually.
No,
when is the nice month in Chicago? June?
No, it's usually May actually, because May and early June, because you get to about 70, 75 degrees. So it's nice. And then when you hit July, it gets a little too hot. So then you want to go back. And then I would say September isn't bad either.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we have a big show today. And the theme of it is the obstacles facing the 49ers. I have a list of about 4. We're going to go systematically, but we're going to save that for the second half. We have some other things we wanted to talk about. This was the first thing out of Vish's mouth this morning. We were on the phone. I guess you got this from The Athletic. Explain this to me.
So I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we can talk about it more in depth. And again, shameless plug, Blake and Vish Sports. Make sure you subscribe. But The Athletic, basically Mike Sando, who I think he covered for the 49ers for ESPN, I want to say years back, maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mike Sando was the guy, right? Okay, so I wasn't sure if I remember that correctly, but when I was a kid, I remember the ESPN guy was Mike Sando.
Pre-Twitter, yes, yep.
Yeah, so he does this thing. A lot of the articles he does now are basically just expert opinions on a specific thing that happened in the NFL. In the last few years with the draft, since he's joined The Athletic, he does this thing where he basically interviews anonymous executives and anonymous GMs, player personnel people, all of that. And he basically just goes through and he asks them their opinions on each individual draft. Mm-hmm. And the Niners draft, it got most people were yeah, it's cool. Kyle Shanahan got Trey Lance. It was mostly positive. It was just one salty executive comment. And it stood out to me because I think that it does garner a little more conversation. But it was also funny to me that this executive was so salty. And basically what he said was, I quote, "San Francisco is one of those teams that does a great job creating a narrative. And they get treated kindly," an exec said. "Other teams with better records over the past 4 years get crushed. Look at some of their early picks. What makes you think Trey Lance is the right pick if you follow the record of their early picks?" And Mike Sando answers this question before he moves on to the next paragraph, and he says Kyle Shanahan's presence is what?
His presence. His aura. It's orange, but it also has a purplish tint on the outside, which just makes it really nice. No, I think this is a really interesting macro look at the 49ers and their draft, because I think a lot of us get caught up in the Niners narrative, the reasons they do the things that they do, the reason they think it's going to work out, and the reasons why they think things haven't worked out in the past. And what he's saying is, hey, all I know is there's 31 other teams, and a lot of these other markets don't give other coaches and teams the same kind of benefit of the doubt. And I think that's true. Can you think of another team that's maybe had comparable success to the 49ers the last 4 years, but not the same kind of benefit?
Yeah, I'm sad to say this, but yeah, I actually, my first thought was that the executive that's making this comment is Ryan Pace. And that's because Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are in a fight for their jobs. And to be fair to the two of them, they have had 2 playoff seasons in the last 4 years. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have 3 losing seasons out of the last 4 years. They actually have 2 playoff seasons of the last 3. And they get crushed for the 2017 passing on Mahomes and Watson. But whatever you want to say about Mitchell Trubisky, he is a better football player than Solomon Thomas. So I think the trade-up is really what gets them. But they definitely get more criticism than the San Francisco 49ers do. And there's a lot of reasons why, and I'm sure we're going to delve into them. But my original kind of takeaway was, wow, these other GMs are salty because look at Ryan Pace, right? The 2017 draft for him, right? He took Trubisky, but in the 5th round, he also got Eddie Jackson, who has the same number of first-team All-Pros as George Kittle, and he has the same number of Pro Bowl appearances as George Kittle. Eddie Jackson is not better than George Kittle. Eddie Jackson is not better than George Kittle. I just want to repeat that one more time because that's not what I'm saying. But most people, when they look at the Niners draft, they say, look, 2017, they got George Kittle. So, Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, all those things are okay. Well, they got Mitchell Trubisky and a bunch of and Adam Shaheen and players like that didn't work out, but they also got Eddie Jackson, right? So that's where I get it. I get where this GM is salty. I think there's a lot more to it, but I think there is something to the fact that, there are other people that are salty that, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are paraded like they're talked as highly as Les Snead and Sean McVay, who've had 3 winning seasons, or they've had 4 winning seasons in a row with 3 playoff appearances, right?
Mm-hmm. The Rams. So the way I look at it is why? I think there's a reason, and I think this all started when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan came to the team. The Niners didn't get this kind of benefit of the doubt when Trent Baalke was here.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And the way I look at it is John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan came into this organization with national reputations already intact. Kyle was the genius. John Lynch was the Hall of Fame player and the established announcer. These guys have a lot of allies and advocates in the national media all over the country. And this market over here, although the Bay Area is very big, it's the media market, as the whole world can see, it's not exactly Philadelphia or New York or apparently even Chicago. It can be a little bit, I don't want to say soft, but soft. And I think that's why maybe people out here feel like, well, who are we to really say that Kyle Shanahan isn't good? I mean, you'd have 5 guys who were way more established national writers saying I'm wrong. You'd have to catch a lot of flack for that. So I don't want it. Whereas maybe a place like Chicago is like, hey, Matt Nagy, I don't know who you are, but we're ESPN Chicago. We can say what we want to say.
So
you know what I mean?
So there's 2 ways I actually look at it. I think the point that you made about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, the reputations they came in with is really important. I mean, John Lynch, first of all, he was a former Fox employee, so 50% of the national media is not going to say anything bad about him because that's their former colleague. So Fox is not going to say anything ever bad about the 49ers. Then there's a lot of former teammates of John Lynch within the media. So that's like 20% of the media that's not going to say anything bad about him. And then the third part of it is that he's possibly the greatest guy in the entire world. I mean, the guy is literally perfect. He's well-spoken. He always says the right things. He's very honest. He's interesting. He's smart. He's everything you want. So then how do you say it? How can you be the guy that says a bad thing about John Lynch? So from that standpoint, I get it. But I think the other aspect of it too is that I think people look at Kyle and you see the coaching talent, right? It goes beyond just the results, right? The results are what they are. And for Kyle, the results don't reflect the talent he's shown, right? In 2017 with that terrible roster, they were competing in every game. And if you look back at 2017, knowing what we know now, I think the way we view Jimmy would be totally different. We view Jimmy as the guy that came and saved the 49ers. I actually think the view that should have been on Jimmy was CJ Beathard and Brian Hoyer were the reason they weren't winning 7-8 games in 2017 itself.
They found ways to lose games they should have won.
Yeah, the team was so well coached they had. I would say they had if you look at their 2017 defense, it wasn't just their offense, their defense also. I would say the 2 standout players of that defense in 2017-3 were Buckner, Reuben Foster, and Jaquiski Tartt. Those were the 3 players that I looked at and said they were a cut above. They were legitimate on that defense.
Foster played 10 games that year, didn't he?
Yeah, he played the last 10, and he was awesome. He had 75 tackles. PFF was saying he's the 3rd best linebacker in the NFL, all of that. Buckner was always good, and Tartt played a top 4, 5 safety in the NFL that year. People don't remember, but he was absolutely unbelievable. Everybody else on that defense wasn't great, but they were getting stops when they needed to. And same thing with their offense. Their offensive line was terrible. Goodwin was playing unbelievable, but he was really their only weapon. Kittle was banged up throughout that season, and he still wasn't George Kittle yet. And the run game had Carlos Hyde and all that, and they were competing in every game. And so, looking back, it was we thought Garoppolo was the savior, but they were so well coached. And I think that's what it is, Grant, before you interrupt me. It's just that the coaching is so good that people look at that little potential and see what he can do. And with Matt Nagy, you look at the coaching and say he's not getting the most out of these players. And that's why the Niners get more of a favorable shake.
Yes, absolutely. I just think it's really interesting when you go back. If you have some time, go Google the draft grades of the Niners 2017 draft immediately after it happened. That was one of the highest graded drafts I can remember. I mean, everyone said the Niners won. They got their guys, 2 first-round picks, the best draft, 2017. Yeah. So there's probably something to this. For whatever reason, a lot of people are into the Niners narrative viewpoint, and I think it's John Lynch's charisma. It's Kyle Shanahan's pedigree. There's a lot to be persuaded by, even though when you say it's a production business, it's a win-loss business. You are what your record says you are. Well, not in the Niners case, because in the Niners case, they had injuries.
Remember how happy we were that Reuben Foster was talking to the Saints, and then he said, "Sorry, coach, the 49ers are calling me. I don't think you're drafting me," and all of that. And, the Saints, the poor Saints, they only got an all-pro tackle in Ryan Ramczyk at 32 instead of Reuben Foster, the poor Saints. But I think there is something I think that the expectation is right, because we follow the 49ers closely. We can give all the reasons and give you all the reasons as to why all these things happen, why they're viewed the way they are, why it's unfair to say these things. But if you just look at it from an outsider's perspective, you can see why so-and-so executive who's getting killed in the media daily, I'm guessing it's Ryan Pace. It's probably not Ryan Pace. I'm just saying him as an example, is a little salty.
Okay, part 2 of this topic. If this guy is right, that people are being just kind of giving the Niners the benefit of the doubt in this draft for no reason, and if you look at it, if you take the Niners out of it, Team A trades up all this way from 12 to 3, trades 3 first-round picks to take Trey Lance.
1 month before the draft.
1 month before the draft. I mean, if it wasn't John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, you'd say, what the hell is this team doing? Which brings me to the question. I mean, we've talked about it, but I think it's interesting. There's interesting ways to spin off of this topic. Do you think that Trey Lance was the Niners guy from day one? And if not, what does that mean?
Okay. So I think there's a lot of levels and a lot of layers to this. And the Niners they've contradicted themselves. Like, different people within the Niners have contradicted themselves in the media in the past few days to try and push this. The first thing I want to say is whoever they had drafted, whether it was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Kellen Mond, Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, Davis Mills, Ian Book, I could keep going. Whoever they drafted was going to be their guy from day one. And that's
what they were going to say.
You cannot sell to anybody that, look, hey, we traded up to 3 so that we could start evaluating these quarterbacks, and we just wanted to be at 3 to pick one of these quarterbacks. No.
Can't say
you
that.
Trade to 3. You trade 2 first-round picks in the future because you have a guy in mind, okay?
Yes.
So that's 1. So whoever they drafted, they had to say that was their guy. 2, I don't think you can say Trey Lance wasn't their guy from day one. I think it's clear. I don't think they're lying to us when they say we loved him since January. I 100% believe that. I think he was one of their guys.
I agree. That could pass a lie detector test, but it's kind of worded specifically.
And that's what I think the thing is. Like, you look at, so I think there's so many layers to this, right? So Kyle has never mentioned Justin Fields, right? On the Rich, he told Peter King, I loved Mac Jones. He told Rich Eisen, I watched Mac Jones and Trey Lance, and I felt comfortable that I needed to get one of these 2 guys. And so they tried from 5, they tried to 4, and they ultimately landed at 3. And clearly they liked Trey Lance more than Mac Jones. But they also only decided they liked Trey Lance as their guy the Monday before the draft. If you remember the way John Lynch talked about it, he was 100% convinced with Trey Lance. And then Kyle finally called him and said, look, I think Trey Lance is the guy too. And he was just over the moon and happy. So they weren't 100%
and Kyle
there.
Conflicted at best on that Monday.
Right.
Something was off with Kyle on that Monday.
Right. And Jed. And
he had Jimmy in the dirt.
Right.
He had Jimmy in the dirt, and his other message was, leave me alone at soccer games, please. I'm just
that was funny. And then the other aspect of it is the Jim Trotter interview, where I thought Jed York was just doing fan service, saying that Mac Jones was never part of the conversation. It was Fields and Lance, and he even threw the Frank Gore angle because, I mean, if you're a Niners fan, how can you not love Frank Gore's? And they got Frank Gore's opinion, and Frank Gore thought Trey Lance was the best quarterback. Though I have a sneaking suspicion that even if they had drafted Kyle Trask, Frank Gore would have been in that article with Jim Trotter saying that he thought Kyle Trask was the best quarterback. So, nothing against Frank Gore. I just thought that particular Jim Trotter article was just for the fans and to try and convince them. But,
so hold on. So if we agree that it most likely wasn't their guy since day one, I mean, If Ryan Pace did that, traded up to a spot without a guy in mind, I mean, he'd be ridiculed.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And I'm not saying that John Lynch deserves ridicule. I'm just saying Niner fans got to be aware of how far out on a limb this team really is right now.
Yeah.
They're doing things other teams wouldn't do.
Yeah, this was kind of crazy if you think about what they did. The only reason I think it's not just us, I think it's the entire NFL community has been so positive about this decision is one, Trey Lance is a really special talent. Like, I mean, there are things that like some people like more, some people like less, but the one thing, and nobody will disagree on, is that Trey Lance has a ton of talent. And two, it's that Kyle Shanahan has just never really had a quarterback that you can say, like, he picked, he wanted him, he did this, and he's 100% behind him. And people are just waiting for Kyle Shanahan's Drew Brees or Kyle Shanahan's Patrick Mahomes or Kyle Shanahan's Tom Brady. You know, the guy the great coach attaches himself to for years. And so everybody's saying he finally did that, and he went and got that guy in Trey Lance. So I think that's why people are okay with it. And I'm also okay with it for the same reasons, though I do have some reservations the more and more I think about it, about the trade up itself. But the big thing I think here is that, to just kind of sum up and put a bow on this topic, I don't think you can say Trey Lance wasn't their guy from day one. But can you say he definitively was? I'm not sure. And then especially when you hear Kyle talk about the fact on the Rich Eisen interview that, you know, one day he loves a player, one day, then the next day he turns him on and he goes, I don't even know why I liked him the other day. So clearly this scouting is such a check and recheck process that, you know, if he could have had his mind changing throughout the process, and he ultimately landed on Trey Lance that Monday before the draft. And then there's the other aspect of when Eric Branch asked the question, was your three guys when you traded up Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance? They didn't answer that question. Now, most GMs and coaches don't answer that question, but Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have volunteered those type of answers every single year after their drafts. In 2017, they volunteered that Myles Garrett, Solomon Thomas, and Reuben Foster were their top three players. In 2018, they volunteered that Mike McGlinchey, Derwin James, and Sony Michel were the three most impressive players they improved. In 2019, they told us that they were between Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams. It came down to Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams. In 2020, they volunteered that their top two receivers were CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk. So for them to not
answer that question, what was Kyle's face when Eric asked it? This was his face.
What?
Are you serious? Are you serious? Like, you really gonna ask me that question right now? That's what it looked like. Really? I thought we were boys. You're gonna do me like that right now? That's what it looked like. It did.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So yeah, I totally read it the same way. And the way to bring it back to the previous topic, that anonymous exec was like, man, the Niners, people are soft on them. From their perspective, how many execs around the league are thinking, man, if I had done this, I'd be laughed out of the league instantly. I don't have the credit. I don't have the credit stored up to pull off something like this.
It's
praised
not
for
that.
it.
It's not that. It's not that. I think it's more, it's not even the move, right? You go up and make the move, and usually you're trying to tell the media, like, I get this entire game of playing the thing, but it's in your benefit to tell the media which guy you have in mind, because you want the media to think you traded up for a guy. The media was left scrambling, right? And they didn't know. And then they tell us they didn't know until the Monday of the week of the draft. They didn't make that decision. That's where I think when you just trade up for the spot, like, I remember the Jets when they traded the 3 second-round picks. Now, everybody praised it after the draft because everybody was just infatuated with Sam Darnold. But when they traded up, they were like, wow, you're really trading up because you're comfortable with 3 quarterbacks a month before the draft? Like, wow, they got killed. The Rams, if you remember, there was a little bit of is it Jared Goff? Is it Carson Wentz? When they traded up to 1, a little bit of debate, and then people landed at Goff about a week after the trade was made. I think the initial expectation was that it was Wentz, and then people finally got to Goff. The entire media, people were like, wow, you traded up to 1 and you're not 100% sure whether it's Goff or Wentz. Like, that's a little crazy. So I do think that the other executives have the right to be salty. But honestly, sorry, guys, life isn't fair. And I'm a Niners fan, so Kyle Shanahan's the guy.
Just compare it real quick to the Jets. I mean, Robert Saleh and the Jets took Zach Wilson, and he's the guy. There's no question. There's no competition. Maybe they're wrong for doing that. Maybe they should have kept Sam Darnold and created a competition and had like a meritocracy. But that's not what they're doing. They have the conviction that you would expect the Niners would have. But that was their guy all along, apparently. They've inserted him in the starting lineup, and that's the way they're going. The Niners made up their mind 3 days before the draft. I've kept Jimmy Garoppolo and don't seem to know who their starting quarterback is going to be next year. Who's to say which way is right? It's just very different. It's interesting that Robert Saleh is not doing it the Niner way. He's got his own vision. And if he were on the Niners right now, he might disagree with the way things are going, but he wouldn't say
maybe. And I think the other thing to highlight is that, like, again, you can't say Trey Lance wasn't the guy from day one. And I don't think we'll ever find out this. And I hope we don't, because I'm a Niners fan. And, like, if we find out the information and all the details about this draft, that means it went horribly wrong for the 49ers and Trey Lance bust. What we're hoping is the scenario that Trey Lance is this super duper star and the Jets start leaking. Like, Michael Flohr was infatuated with Trey Lance, but Joe Douglas said it's Zach Wilson or nobody. Like, that's the situation we're hoping for. Right. But if we do find out the truth to this story, it'll be because Trey Lance doesn't pan out and everybody's trying to put out their narrative of who they like as they prepare to find their next job.
Okay, let's switch gears entirely. The rookies. Minicamp starts Friday in 4 days. I don't know what that is. Today's the 10th. On the 14th is rookie minicamp, and it goes for 3 days. I assume I'm going to be watching some of it and reporting. What do you think realistic offseason expectations are for these rookies, given that some of them didn't play last year, including the quarterback they drafted with the third pick?
I don't think that people should be expecting them to just walk in and getting rave reviews in every practice. I don't know what it will be by training camp, but at least I think rookie minicamp will be a little inconsistent. You remember Nick Bosa? Nick Bosa, this guy who dominated his rookie season. Do you remember his first practice of rookie minicamp? It was underwhelming. Yes. Do you remember that? It was underwhelming. And why was it underwhelming? Because he was a guy who hadn't played football in just about a year. Because
that's right.
After he recovered from his core injury, he didn't return. He went straight to playing. He went straight to preparing for the draft. And
that's right.
Unfortunately for Trey Lance, he didn't get the opportunity to play this year. And that wasn't because of him. That was because of COVID-19. So I think he's also going to have a little bit of inconsistency just because he's still getting back into the groove of things. And that's okay. I don't think people should overreact if Trey Lance is an inconsistent camp and the reviews out of Chicago are that Justin Fields is killing her. The reviews out of New Englanders, the Mac Jones are killing it. The reviews are that the other quarterbacks are killing it just because Trey Lance didn't get the opportunity to play last year. So it's going to be inconsistent. I would say the same thing goes for Ambry Thomas.
Yeah.
He didn't play last year.
Yeah. See, I was watching Ambry Thomas this morning. I've been watching his tape and he's very athletic, but I wanted to see how he did in the Senior Bowl one-on-ones because that's kind of like the moment of truth. Mm-hmm. And honestly, he didn't do very well. And I'm sitting here being like, God, this guy is not good. But then I'm thinking, wait. He didn't play last year. And then there's another cornerback that was at the Senior Bowl named Cameron Bynum, who I remember did an excellent job against Brandon Ayuk, who's a terrific player. So Cameron Bynum must be pretty good, I think. I don't know if he got drafted, but I liked him. At the Senior Bowl, he was getting worked harder than Ambry Thomas. So that's another guy who sat out 2020. And remember, these are amateurs sitting out. They're not 27-year-old multimillionaire professionals who know what it takes to be the best. These are guys who are kids that are still figuring it out. And if you take a year away, who knows what their level of performance will be when they come back. Yeah, who knows?
Their bodies could have changed in that year too, just because, like, I know my body's changing every year this time in my life, so I know what that's like. And so, I don't think people should really have this expectation, that Trey Lance is just going to walk in and kill it. If he walks in and kills it, man, I'm going to be excited. But
amazing.
I think it's going to be a little inconsistent, at least the reports. But I think the biggest thing to monitor is just how Kyle Shanahan talks about him, because if he's ready, and I think if he's ready, he should definitely start week one. If he's not ready, he obviously shouldn't start, but he should start whenever he's ready. But I think he can be ready by week one. And so if he's ready, I think he should start week one. But like, Kyle Shanahan will be fully transparent with whether he's ready or not. So I think we'll be able to monitor that. Same thing with the guy like Ambry Thomas and all of that. I think the two guys we can kind of tell in camp, one is Trey Sermon, but then it's hard to really see running backs in camp just because they're not really getting hit or tackled. And then the other one is Aaron Banks. I think if he belongs, you'll see it. And I thought he was the best pick of the draft for them. So
hold on real quick, Coach. Yeah, I hear you on that. I understand. It's a better tool. I know they're at a disadvantage, and really you can't judge them. But we were talking when we were scouting him, and you said he looks like the kind of guy who'd be good on one-on-ones. And I agree. But in these one-on-ones, I kept slipping and falling. And that's one thing I noticed. Like, if you're having trouble staying on your feet, that's an issue. And I think the times he got beat, coach, was when his balance was off and he got his he would fall forward or just get it. Yeah. So that's what the thing I noticed.
Yeah.
Maybe
and the other thing is Grant's point here isn't that Ambry Thomas is a good or bad player based on Senior Bowl's one-on-ones. His point is that he didn't play football for an entire year, and then he went into those one-on-ones and he was rusty. He was slipping. He was falling. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, he could be better. I think the main point here is that it's good that they're going to have OTAs and minicamp. And it's interesting. Last year, the rookies had a full season of football in 2019, no offseason in the NFL. Some guys did all right. Now it's the opposite. A lot of these guys had no football last year, but they'll have rookie minicamp, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason. So we'll see which prepares players better. It's kind of the opposite. I'm curious.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Lance to Samuel TD sounds so good. Yeah. Thanks for the donation. All right, so let's start talking about these obstacles that you've been waiting to hear about. There are plenty of obstacles in front of a team, starting with their opponents in their division. And the thing that's interesting about the NFC West is it's fantastic. It's very competitive. And you could honestly make an argument for any team that they're the best or that they're the worst. So I think it's cool. Let's go team by team and see how the Niners match up, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. Who is better, the 49ers or the Cardinals, and why?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers for obvious reasons. I mean, they beat them at the end of last year with C.J. Beathard. But I do think this Cardinals team is better than last year. I think they have a couple of things that they didn't have last year. And I think it starts with the fact that I thought Zaven Collins, while I didn't love the pick at 16, I think he's a really good player. And I think he's going to help their defense. And I think for them this year, having an actual role for Isaiah Simmons, because Isaiah Simmons struggled early in his rookie year, but when they played him at middle linebacker at the very end of last year, I thought he played pretty well as just a middle linebacker. So they're
going to have Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins inside
as their middle linebacker.
Very athletic.
Chandler Jones coming back is always going to make a big difference. He's an absolute beast. I actually think Marcus Golden. I think AJ Green still has something left in the tank. Call me crazy, but I think he can come and help them and contribute. I like Rondale Moore to them. I think it adds an explosive element to their offense that they've been missing.
Sort of what Andy Isabella was supposed to be, right?
Right. Their only explosive element to their offense is Kyler Murray. So I think Rondale Moore adds that. In terms of Christian Kirk's always been a really, really solid, fine player. And then I still have questions about their secondary and corners. But in terms of franchise-type players, in terms of all-pro players, the Cardinals have 3 players that are elite, in Chandler Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and Budda Baker. I mean, Budda Baker, in my opinion, is the best safety in the NFL. Just an absolute stud. So I think that the Cardinals do have a lot of talent. I'm a big Kyler Murray fan, but obviously Kyler Murray's second half of last year was less than. Now you can attribute it to the left shoulder injury, which is what I do. Or if you're not as high on Kyler Murray, you can attribute it to his inconsistencies processing and his inability to
figuring him out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And his inability to see. So, it just depends. I still think the Niners are, better, and I think that's because the coaching department, I just think at least when Robert Saleh was here, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh seemed to have figured out. I think Vance Joseph actually did a better job against Kyle Shanahan than most. But
Vance did well last year. Yeah.
Right. Robert Saleh even game 1, I thought he did pretty, and actually no, game 1 was a struggle. Never mind. Not putting your hands on DeAndre Hopkins and not really spying Kyler Murray was rough. But I thought week 14 or week 15 did they play the Cardinals? Was it week 16?
Yes.
I thought it was one of his better game plans of the entire season. They absolutely ate that Cardinals offense for breakfast. And that was with the defense that was missing just about everybody. It was Jason Verrett, Jimmy Ward, and Fred Warner. And then the rest of the defense was all backups, third stringers, unheralded guys, and they made it happen. So can D'Amico
offense is slow, like you said. Yeah. Man, I think whenever I watch him, I'm like, Kyler Murray's fast, but he's waiting for Larry Fitzgerald to run downfield Rondale Moore should be really big for them. We were talking, it seems to me that we don't really trust their general manager, Steve Keim, to build they're not going to be the kind of team that's good every year. But they do have Kyler Murray in a rookie deal in year 3, which is like the most dangerous you can be, pretty much. And they've made these kind of 1-year win now moves with AJ Green and JJ Watt. Do you feel like this could be a 1-year wonder team, or did they play themselves with some old injury-prone players and they're going to be 7 and 9 and 10 again?
So I think there is a scenario where they could be that team. I just wouldn't bet on it because I think if you did a 10-time sample size, they would maybe be that team once or twice, and 8 times they wouldn't be that team. And I think it's part of it is just this division.
Yeah.
The Cardinals don't match up with the Rams ever. The Rams always just kill the Cardinals. Oof. The Cardinals' best matchup has always been the Niners in this division. And I just think that the Niners last year, especially the end of last year, like that game was concerning to me. The fact that it felt like Robert Saleh finally, like he just got him. It felt like the Cardinals had no answer offensively last year. And I don't think Rondale Moore and AJ Green are the answers to solving that question. I still have questions whether they can run the
James
ball.
Conner.
Right. The thing that always stood out to me, the reason I was maybe a little higher on Cliff Kingsbury after his year one is because I thought he figured out a way to run the ball. Kenyon Drake, people thought he was fantastic at the end of that year. Kenyon Drake, like everybody thought like, oh my God, the Cardinals have a real running game. And then last year, the running game was basically if Kyler Murray can't run, then they can't run the football. Yeah. And that's a real problem to me. So for all those reasons, I just don't trust this team. And eventually, like, I just think the Niners are just better than them.
I think that was a very good answer. All right, we got a bonus question from Brandon Turner. This is a question on a lot of Niner fans' minds for good reason. Jalen Hurd was a third-round pick, high third-round pick. Does Hurd win the wider three? Does Jalen Hurd win the wider three? Oh my God! Does Jalen Hurd win the wide receiver 3 spot if he is healthy and lives up to expectations this year? It took me 3 tries, but I got it. What do you think? I think the answer is yes. If he's healthy and lives up to expectations. I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna say no.
If he's healthy and lives up to expectations, he still can't get it.
What kind of athlete will he be when he is healthy? We're talking about a guy recovering from a back and an ACL. And we're talking about not just a back injury that they told us he would be back in 3 to 4 weeks, and then find out 7 months later the guy can't even take a plane to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that almost sounds like a D Ford back injury. Like, we're just gonna wait for about 3-4 years and see what happens.
Like in terms of, like obviously in terms of a fully healthy Jalen Hurd coming out of college would be 100% a receiver 3 in this offense. It would be an unbelievably good receiver 3. But I don't know if that's what we're getting here. And I really like Jalen Hurd. I like his like mental makeup. I like the way he like speaks.
Yeah.
I like his ability like as a player.
Yeah, Jalen Hurd is enticing.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is that idea of Jalen Hurd still exists.
Well, I mean, look, they don't need him to be a short yardage running back anymore. They don't need him to be a starting wide receiver. They're like in a position kind of with D Ford where, look, we're committed to you for another 2 years, basically. We lost half of your rookie deal, but we got 2 more. And if you can give us 100 snaps, we'll take it. What are we going to do? So I don't know if he'll ever be any good, but it does seem like maybe you could read into the fact that they didn't draft a wide receiver as an indication that they're hopeful that he can give them something. Because, look, if it ain't Jalen Hurd, it's not Richie James. I mean, we like Richie James. They don't seem to really think much.
Richie James is a perfect receiver 4, receiver 5. I still think Benjamin's got something. I think Benjamin adds something to this offense that we haven't talked about. I think that when they signed Travis Benjamin, they signed him as a guy that they expected to make this team. And I think he will make this team this year. Maybe I'm totally wrong. And he gets.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. To me, he's like such a clear Taylor Gabriel replacement. I mean,
right.
Just watch what Gabriel did with the Falcons in 2016. And we're on the same team together.
Right.
On the Browns with
Browns. And the other thing. Yeah, with Andrew Hawkins too. So that's like 3 guys of the similar types. But the other thing I think is that they're also like, I think they're realizing the fact that we are going to be a 21 personnel offense. We're not going to be 11 personnel offense. So we have a lot of guys in the room who have the ability to be the number 3 receiver. I mean, Jalen Hurd, Kevin White, Travis Benjamin, Richie James. Mohamed Sanu,
Craycraft.
River Craycraft, Juwan Jennings, throw them all in there. Austin Watkins, throw them all in there. Hopefully one of these guys will step up because we just need them 25 to 30% of the time anyway. But I think the big problem with that, and we're going to probably touch on this later, is the fact what they're relying on to not happen if they're doing that.
I want to hold on. I want to add a topic real quick. I'm sorry to Austin Watkins, but we need to talk about Austin Watkins. Well, Austin Watkins make the team because a lot of people are looking at Austin Watkins as the guy from the undrafted ranks as a dude who's going to make the team. I don't think any undrafted free agents made the team last year, like as rookies. Did they? I don't think they did. This is a good team, a veteran team. It's not exactly the same exact team that Kendrick Bourne made as a rookie, although I don't think he made it at a training camp either. Do you think Austin Watkins will make this team out of camp? Why?
I mean, you have to see what he does in camp and all of that. But Austin Watkins right now feels like Juwan Jennings last year. Yeah. People were convinced that, like, oh, they got Juwan Jennings. It's over. And Juwan Jennings, you've described, struggled throughout training camp. He struggled to separate. He
had like a good day, maybe 2 good days, but basically he struggled to get open.
Yeah, so he was never really that guy. I think Austin Watkins is similar. I mean, they had the guy from Baylor. They paid a ton of money in 2017. Cannon, I want to say. He should have been picked. And Katie Cannon, he was he was cut 1 practice into training camp.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
And people thought he would make the team for sure. Yeah. I feel like there's just one late round undrafted free agent guy that we as a fandom just attach ourselves to every single year. And that guy shows something. And then he just doesn't even make the team. He doesn't even think he's that good. But I think Austin Watkins, he seems like a really nice guy. I like his story a lot. He seems like a really solid player. I think the odds of him actually making this team are not that high.
Well, Niner fans like him because he's gotten the Kendrick Bourne 2.0 label. I think people think they signed him to replace Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne was an undrafted free agent. He's the next Kendrick Bourne. And he runs about the same 4.55. Right. They're both contested catch guys, played in the Senior Bowl, did a pretty good job in the one-on-ones, looks like a good route runner, and he was praised for that in his NFL draft profile. But the difference between these guys, tell him, Bish.
It's quickness. Kendrick Bourne's a little quicker than him.
Yeah, look at Kendrick. Kendrick Bourne tested really well. I think he had like 6.7 in the 3-cone and 7.42 in the 20-yard shuttle. Those are very, very those are elite times.
I also think like he obviously wasn't bad in Senior Bowl if you go look at the one-on-ones and stuff. But I thought Kendrick Bourne, just in terms of like, I thought he was like, obviously I'm comparing 3 years into his NFL career, Kendrick Bourne, to a guy who's 22 years old and just going into the NFL. So it's not a fair comparison, but I thought he just separated better. And also the other thing is that I guess they're similar in terms of their body type and everything. I don't know if they're the exact same. So I mean, we'll see. It's
the one
tough
thing
to
about
predict
this guy is
without watching him in camp at all or anything. So I'll just be waiting for your takes on him. And then
the one thing I can tell just watching him at Senior Bowl is he's in great shape and he's really strong. Mm-hmm. He can win at the catch point. So he's not going to get the kind of separation that Kendrick Bourne got, but he reminded me of Anquan Bolden. He's not Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden was an all-time great player who was the rookie of the year. I think he had 100 catches as a rookie. That's not Austin Watkins. I'm just saying he's muscled up. He wins he doesn't win with separation. He wins with like a power forward. He's banging in the paint. So that's what you have to look forward to with Austin Watkins. All right, let's get back to the Niners' obstacles. We've talked about the Cardinals. How about the other bird team, the one up north? Who's better, the Niners or the Seahawks?
This is a really, really complicated question to me because I don't think there's a better, because I think if you go top to bottom roster, the Niners are better. Like I think they're unequivocally better.
They have fewer like glaring holes, you would say, right?
Yeah, top to bottom, without a doubt. Yeah. They have a better offensive line. They have, I would say, they have a better stable of running backs. I would say the only thing Seattle really has on them is that
wide receivers and quarterback.
Wide receiver and quarterback. That's it.
Yeah,
I don't think their secondary is better. I don't think their linebackers are better, especially with KJ Wright not back yet. I don't think their defensive line is better, especially with Jaron Reed gone. I don't think their offensive line is anywhere close to better. So, like, the only thing
they're starting Akello Witherspoon right now, man.
Yeah, Akello Witherspoon.
That's rough.
I think he'll be solid for them, but that's not what I would ideally want to walk into camp as my starting corner at one side. But that's just me. But I think the one thing Seattle always has, and I feel like this is an exercise we do every offseason, we look at their roster. This is the year Seattle won't be good. Look at this roster. They suck. And then you're 10 weeks into the season and Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have them at 8-2. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And I think that's the big problem. And it looks like Russell Wilson's back to being happy Russ. It looks like the beef is over. He is not asking for a trade anymore. And so it's tough. Like, I think the Niners are a better roster, but will they have a better record than the Seattle Seahawks? Well, we'll have to find out because, man, Russell Wilson makes a difference. And those receivers are serious. I think that we've gotten to a point where we used to talk about how much Russell Wilson doesn't have weapons and all of that. I would say that they have a top 5 receiving core in the NFL. I would say DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett is a top 3 or 4 receiver duo in football. And I know that a lot of people, I personally have not watched him, so I'm just using other people's.
I watched him this morning from the Senior Bowl. I was trying to watch.
A lot of people like DS, a lot, and so
here's the thing: when you're watching those one-on-ones, you can kind of see like who are the professional receivers in here, who are the pros, who are the guys who just win. And he was one of them. It was obvious. He's not like he won sometimes, and he's figuring it out. That guy's good. He's little, but I mean, so is Tyler Lockett.
Right. Yeah. And he adds, I mean, it looks like they're totally embracing Russell Wilson bombs away because they have 3 guys that just will scorch the top off of a defense.
And the Niners have no answer for DK Metcalf. I don't know if anyone does right now.
Jalen Rams do.
And that's what they had to pay a lot to get it. The Niners paid the same amount to get Trey. Well, a little bit more.
Yeah, the only difference is one, if he stays healthy for 10 years, is going to be a guaranteed Hall of Famer, and the other one we'll see. But
his name is Trey Lance. The thing about with the Seahawks, the Niners have the potential to be better. They have a better roster. They have flux at the quarterback position, but the Seahawks have consistency. As long as Russell Wilson is healthy, they're not going to win fewer than 10 games. So they may not win 13, but they're going to win 10 games. Do you know the Niners are going to win 10 games? No, not really.
Yeah.
So they could be better than the Seahawks, but right now the Seahawks are a hell of an obstacle in their way.
It's really unfortunate too, because if you really go down these rosters, it's not close. The Niners are just better.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to keep going. Brandon says, when is Grant going to run the 40? We all want to see him beat Sherman's 40 time. All right, look, I'm 33, and if I run a 40 just cold, I'll tear it all. I'll tear everything. So I pledge to get in shape and practice and to run a 40 this offseason before camp starts. I will run a 40. I will record it. I already have someone who has offered to do the recording. I just been a little bit busy because of the draft. I promise I will run a 40 because if I don't do it at 33, I'll never do it again. And it might not be a pretty time, but as long as I can break 4.8 and run faster than Sherman, I'll feel good about it. I hit 4.51 on the track when I was 18. I don't expect to do that ever again. But I did it with like spikes, which is kind of cheating. If you notice at the combine, they run it on grass, which really slows you down. If they ran all those things on a track, people be running like 4.1s. Jermaine says, Grant, your boy Jason Aponte now has Only Chance gear. What will it take for you to rock one this season?
Zach Wilson went too.
That's true. I don't have to wear that. I won that bet.
Wait, what?
There was some bet that I had to do that I would have to wear that, but
yeah, with me.
Yeah, that's right.
You said if Zach Wilson doesn't go too, you'll wear it.
Uh-oh.
Or you won't wear it.
Uh-oh.
And I have to wear a shirt with a picture of your face on it.
Uh-oh, so I have to wear Only Chins?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. All right, well, tell him to send it over. I'll wear it. No, a month? I'm definitely not doing that.
I'm kidding. We did one show.
Hold on. Mike says, who would win in a fight? Wow. Jeez.
That's harsh.
That's a tough one, man. I don't know. Probably John Lynch, dude. He's got a hell of a chin. He's got a big chin. Although Michael Lynch is 300 pounds. Although DJ Reed put him down. I don't know. It's a tough one, man. You keep going around and around. Styles make fights. That's all I can say. I'd have to see a sparring match or something. All right. The last team in the NFC West standing between the Niners and Glory, the Rams. Who's better?
If you're going top to bottom roster, it's once again the Niners. The Rams offensive line is fine. Niners offensive line is better. Rams have Cam Akers, who looked really, really good as a rookie. I would say the Niners have a better stable of running backs when you go Mostert, Wilson, Trey Sermon, even throw Wayne Gallman in there. I thought he was fine for the Giants last year. Nothing great, but I didn't think he was like just a guy who shouldn't have gotten signed like 5 weeks into free agency. In terms of receivers, I would say the Rams definitely have the edge there. When you look at, it's not just the position, it's not just the high-end players, it's also the totality of the position. I would say Robert Woods is the best receiver when you look at both of those teams. I think Ayuk and Debo have the potential to be better, but right now Robert Woods is the best receiver. And if you go Woods, Cooper Kupp, I like Van Jefferson a lot. You go Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell.
I forgot they have Deshaun Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say they have a better set of receivers. I still think they're tight ends. I think Higbee is solid. It's not as good as the Niners, obviously. And then their defense. Yeah, the thing with their defense is that, yeah, they lost a lot of people. Yeah, they lost Brandon Staley and all of that. But, man, it's tough for me to think that they won't have a good defense when you have Aaron Donald and
Jalen
Ramsey.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey basically allows you to do anything else on one side of the field in coverage because you can just lock him on anybody, and that guy's basically done for the game. Aaron Donald basically allows you to scheme up pass rush opportunities for everybody on your D-line because he requires a double or triple team every game. And so because of those reasons, like, I think, again, if you're looking just roster in terms of depth, in terms of overall talent, all of this, the Niners probably are the lead in this entire division. But then I think Stafford is just a proven commodity. And in my opinion, like, I really like Matthew Stafford. This has been well documented. I think with Sean McVay, it's a perfect fit. I think they have a lot of really good receivers. So I think that it's really going to work well. And I think Stafford's talent's a bit more proven and refined than Trey Lance at this point. And we know what Jimmy Garoppolo kind of is. So if I had to pick one, I might pick the Rams, I would say, just because they have more things I'm confident in. Like, I'm more confident in Aaron Donald playing 16 games and being an all-pro. I'm more confident in Jalen Ramsey playing 16 games and being an all-pro. I'm confident that Matthew Stafford, he's shown enough in his career where if you enhance the situation around him, I feel like he could be a top 8, top 7 quarterback in the NFL. And so for all those reasons, I'd probably lean the Rams, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here a year from now and the Rams were a solid 11-6 team and the Niners just rattled off and went 14-3. Because the Niners roster, once again, has the potential to do that. I think there's a specific obstacle we're going to talk about up next very soon.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't just fully just buy in and 100% be happy about this.
Now, the Rams losing Staley is significant. Niners losing Salah is significant. Right. I feel like the last couple of years, he was like their ace against the Rams because Sean McVay is very good at what he does. And Robert Saleh is a little bit better at what he does. And that was an advantage the last couple of years. We'll see if D'Amico can do that.
So I believe more in Raheem Morris than I do in D'Amico Ryans right now, just because we know nothing about D'Amico.
Is that who they got in the Rams?
They got Raheem Morris, yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's a good – see, that's the thing. They both lost their D coordinators, but the Rams got Raheem Morris, who – look, maybe Ryans has more potential, but Raheem Morris has been doing this a long time, and he's only 40. So, yeah, this is a really, really tough division. The Niners could make the playoffs, finishing third place. It'll be very interesting. Ray says, when is the schedule release? Vish and Grant schedule breakdown. It's Wednesday. We could always – I was going to do one with Jesse late night, 49ers After Dark, but Vish is over here chilling on he's got to let me know what his availability is because I don't know. He might just be at the club all the night. I don't know what Vish does in his off time. You know what I mean? Vish could be at the water park chilling. I don't know.
No, I'm not going to a water park.
Who goes to a water park? That seems like
10-year-olds.
Yeah, 10-year-olds. Sorry, Vish. Eric Rucker says, did the Niners and the rest of the NFC West agree to take on the international players in exchange for not having to be on Hard Knocks?
I'm hoping they don't get on Hard Knocks. I'm praying for it.
Why?
I feel like every time your team goes on Hard Knocks, you're like already like it's just another set of like fandom comes with superstition. And so when you're superstitious, right, and I'm a little superstitious, like you see the results of every team that's been on Hard Knocks and you're like, oh man. And so that's just another thing to worry about.
I've never really watched it. I don't have HBO. So is it kind of just like make a circus out of the season before it starts?
A little bit, yeah. And they create random camp storylines, and it looks like some of the stuff that's set up it's set up. Like some of the conversations they have, like they had one Hard Knock segment I'll never forget when they did it with the Browns. Baker's rookie year, Hugh Jackson brought Baker Mayfield into his office and congratulated him for beating out, I think it was Drew Stanton for the backup quarterback job. And he's like, I just wanted to bring you in and congratulate you. And Baker Mayfield is kind of looking at him like, this is freaking ridiculous, man. I'm the number 1 overall pick, and you're congratulating me about winning the backup job.
Thanks. This is great. I'm really excited, Hugh. We're going to have a really long, fruitful relationship.
It's a little setup for show. And then, like last year, Anthony Lynn was like at a barbecue, and he was doing some barbecue, and they were interviewing him while he was like cooking. It's just a very odd thing. It's a little bit set up. I mean, we'll see. If the Niners did it, obviously George Kittle would just steal the show. But I think that, like,
which would be good. Maybe he'd take the focus away from people who don't want it. Who else would get
Nick Bosa?
airtime?
They would definitely do like one segment, where ad to ad, it would just be about Nick Bosa, Nick Bosa's work ethic, and all of that. That would be
Nick Bosa's thighs, Nick Bosa's brother. Nick Bosa's brother's in the NFL too. His dad also played in the NFL. It's a true story.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Hey, Trey Lance.
100%. Yeah.
But no, the Niners won't want it because they would cover the quarterback controversy in such detail. It would make the Niners very uncomfortable.
They would also portray a narrative that they might not want to portray for the Hard Knocks.
Maybe they'd be pro Jimmy.
No, because what sells, and they do this every year in Hard Knocks, and it ticks me off, is, the rookie quarterback has to adjust to the struggles of the NFL. And they did that segment with Justin Herbert, and then we come and find out by week 2, Justin Herbert is already playing like a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, and he's out there looking comfortable and all of that. So they would do that segment, and I don't think the Niners want that.
Right. Thanks, Eric. Sean has one question. We'll get back to the final obstacle, the biggest obstacle. Sean says, you guys forget the 49ers surrounded him with former DCs. That is true. Why isn't anyone really talking about Shanahan having the only power version of his scheme?
Because he doesn't. McVay added all of those elements last year into his run game. LaFleur added a little bit.
It's a two tight end run game over there in LA.
And then they surrounded him with a bunch of former DCs, and I think it's going to be interesting. Like James Betcher, I think, will add a bunch of he was a creative defensive coordinator when he was in Arizona, so I'm sure there'll be some creative blitzes and all of that. But at the end of the day, no matter whoever you surround him with, DeMeco Ryans is going to have to be the one making decisions. Shanahan can help him with the game plan and all of that, and we all think that he could be really good. But it's impossible to just make that projection and say DeMeco Ryans is going to be an excellent defensive coordinator, especially when the guy he's replacing in Robert Saleh was unbelievable last year. Unbelievable. Right.
And also, I think a lot of people assume that DeMeco is going to be doing his best to recreate what Robert Saleh did, to do his best Robert Saleh impersonation. Well, Robert Saleh's gone, and there are other former DCs in the building, namely Betcher. Maybe Betcher's going to have a very big creative influence. I mean, why wouldn't he? Would you not listen to him if you were DeMeco, would you say, listen, James, thank you for your input, but I'm going to do what I think Robert Saleh would have done, what I think he would have done.
But DeMeco, also look at the styles of defense DeMeco played in his career. They were heavy blitz defense. They're a little different from what Robert Saleh's been doing. So I'm sure it's going to be different. And I'm not saying he couldn't be good. I'm saying he could be very good. We're just going to have to watch him grow. And even if he is a prodigy for this job, there's going to be a learning curve.
I thought there was a learning curve for Saleh, who ended up being pretty darn near prodigy. Okay. Last obstacle, the injuries, the fluke that keeps hitting the Niners year after 8 years in a row. Who do you think is going to win out this year, the Niners or the injuries?
Oh, that's a horrible question to ask.
You don't have to put it like that, but okay. But let's frame this issue like what are Niner fans really up against? What are the Niners really up against here? Why is this so real?
Yeah, it's the health thing, and I think the scariest part for me, just as a fan, is the fact that we think that the Niners won't be unlucky and this year they're going to be all healthy. But the Niners are once again relying on a bunch of people whose history of being healthy, unfortunately, it just hasn't worked in their favor. I mean, it starts their best players, George Kittle. I mean, 3 years in a row we've had a different injury that he's missed 4, 5, 6 games, or 4 games, 5 games like that. And he played even in 2018 through cracked ribs for the entire season. Nick Bosa, in the last 3 years, has had 2 very serious injuries and 2 very serious surgeries.
Arguably your 2 best players, Bosa and Kittle.
Jason Verrett, he's recovering from injuries. DJ Jones is a guy that I think is a really underrated player. He gets hurt. He's gotten hurt every year. I mean, you look at the running back room, it's filled with guys who can be excellent for 4 or 5 game stretches, but have all been gotten banged up.
Mostert, Wilson Jr., yes, 2.
We talked about the receivers, right? And in an ideal world, they'll be okay at receiver as long as Ayuk and Debo stay healthy. And that's also a little bit of especially with Debo, he's had this hamstring problem. He looks to be he's working once again to be in incredible shape. But prior to him breaking his foot, people were talking about what shape he was in last year. Footwork King was constantly posting, and Trent Williams was talking about Debo's workout and how freaky Debo was when he worked out with him in the PFF. So we don't know about that. So I think that's the scary part. Jimmy Ward is a guy who's been healthy the last 2 years, but before that, like Grant was asking questions about, does he drink milk? Jason Verrett is a guy who's had a lot of serious injuries in his past. Jaquiski Tartt is another guy who's gotten injured. And, like all these guys are phenomenal players when they're on the field. And if they're on the field, the Niners are going to be incredible. But once again, they're like one injury away in so many different spots, which
you just named 11 people, 11 starters, not starters, but 11 key contributors out of a possible 25. That's why the Niners are what they are. It's like, yeah, if health is on their side, they could be good, but they've constructed a roster where 40% of the key contributors have major injury question marks. 40%.
We're not just talking about 11 random players too.
No.
We're talking about 11 excellent football players. 11 guys who, when they're healthy, they're near the top of their position.
D Ford. You didn't even mention
D Ford's another one. Right.
Yeah. I mean, of all these guys, the only ones who aren't starters are Ford and Jeff Wilson Jr. Everyone else is a starter. Even Ayuk missed 4 games last year. I mean, even the running back that they drafted this year that I really like, Trey Sermon, gets hurt.
He gets banged up. Yeah.
Gets banged up. So that's the way the Niners chose to build this team. It's going to be the way they ride or die this year.
And that's really the scary part, because I think Fred Warner's the only guy we can really look at on this team that's one of these excellent players, and we say, well, okay, it looks like Fred will be there the entire season. It's just that he's another
also
guy
misses about 2 games every year. Not a lot, but that's a good point, man.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And that's the scary part as just a fan, because you're hoping that the Niners can get lucky. Like, come on, they got to be lucky. Like, poor Jaquiski Tartt getting injured every year. Like, that's not his fault. He's just unlucky. Like, Debo, come on, poor. Like obviously those are 2 of my favorite players, so I just mentioned them. But like Jason Verrett, he's had horrible luck. Like, can he get good luck? But it's just at some point it's not. It's more than
how much good luck do you need though? You need 11 people to have good luck. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So that's why I think when we're being honest about this team this year, maybe we need to talk about this more. I mean, maybe the whole if they're healthy thing is reasonable for any other team, but the way the Niners have set themselves up, that's unlikely.
That's why we're unable to because if we're just looking at raw rosters right now, Grant, you know what our conversation should have been with those other 3 teams? Yeah, they're really good. Niners are better. Yeah, really good. Niners are better. But unfortunately, we're waiting to see Nick Bosa coming off of a
Jimmy Garoppolo. We didn't even mention Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. I mean, you could mention 14 dudes. Yeah, man. I don't know how the Niners put themselves in this situation. They seem like they're trying to get themselves out of it. They only drafted 2 dudes this year who have major injury issues or histories in Sermon and Hufanga, but that's 2 more than they might have, maybe 1 more than they should have drafted. And it's going to take years of roster construction and tweaking to change this.
It's not even just the history, though. It just feels like these guys are coming here, and for whatever reason, like the Niners have some bad voodoo that
it's the grass. It's the grass.
You think so?
No, I don't know. I have no idea what it is.
I have no clue, but I mean, if there is a big if they're able to overcome this and they have all these guys healthy, these guys. K'Wan Williams is another guy that.
Oh my God! Yeah, K'Wan Williams.
Yeah,
my God, I don't think he's ever played a full 16-game season ever.
And he's an excellent player when he plays.
Yeah, we just named 15 contributors out of it. Yeah, it's like 50% of the team, man. Man, how did this happen? When you look at it that way. Oh well. Well, at least Aaron Banks. All right, hold on. Let's get some of these questions because people have been waiting patiently. Sean is not giving up on this one. I appreciate that, Sean. Rams are closer to KC than our scheme, Vish. No punishing tight end. True. Higbee ain't that. Plus have a lighter line. Pigeons have big receivers. No line pigeons. I like that.
What's pigeons?
SF runs through you. Well, not yet. Last year, the Niners run game fell apart. I think this year they're trying to have a run game that can sustain for 17 games because they really don't want Trey Lance to be in a position where he's doing the Nick Mullins, throwing 50 times a game because that's all you got.
Honestly,
they have depth, I think.
When did the Rams offense get close to Kansas City? The real discernible difference between the Rams and the 49ers is that Sean McVay likes bootlegs way more than Kyle Shanahan.
That's true. And I think with Trey Lance, we're going to see the return of the bootleg game. But let's focus on the main point of what Sean's trying to say because he's really given 2 donations for us to stick with him. And I hear what you're trying to say. The Niners, at least for them, are going in a new direction. When Raheem Mostert is your number 1 running back, you're a finesse running team. He's 196 pounds and he's the fastest player in the league. Now they have other things they can do, and it seems like they've really made it a point to emphasize physicality since 2019. The last 3 drafts, every skill position player. I don't really know what to say about that, but I see that the Niners are doing that, and I think it's smart.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he's right in terms of like the Niners receivers also are more physical than the Rams receivers in terms of just like their play style, right? Like Debo himself is one of the most physical players in the NFL. Like George Kittle adds a physical element. So I see what you're saying with that. But the Rams are also a physical team. I think that's been one of the most underrated things in the entire McVay era. How many times have you ever seen the Rams get bullied? The Niners didn't even bully them in 2019.
Yeah, that's true. Darnay Harvey says they need to bring back Coach Uyama. You know, I was looking into this. This is very interesting. The best strength and conditioning coach. He's the reason Gore had such a great career as a 49er. I was looking into this. Coach Uyama was the strength and conditioning coach. They made him the top dude in 2011. He won like the best guy in the league that year at his job. He held it through 2014. They promoted him to something else in director of something else, and then they got rid of him, and he went to Minnesota. Was great. They just got rid of him too. So I don't know what the story is with Coach Uyama, but whatever they did since to replace him hasn't worked. They might consider that. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got an opinion?
You know, because honestly, I've been attributing this to bad luck, and I think a lot of it is bad luck. But
of course,
when I saw the graph going through Twitter of like the Niners, and it was like 6 years in a row where they were the most affected. 8 was it 8?
8
that
since
they were the most
2013.
Yeah, they were the most affected team by injuries. Like that one made my jaw drop. Like because when you have an 8-year sample size, there has to be something that's just not going the Niners' way here. If there's something they're not doing right.
wrong. Yeah, and the thing that's funny, remember they got rid of Uyama, and the first guy that Kyle brought in, the first thing he did was put on
his dad's staff, right?
Yeah, he put that.
Oh, they put the hill.
It's still there, but they don't use it anymore. So funny. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. I think it's a very interesting. You have to look at all the variables because whatever is going on has added up and become like a perfect storm of.
And the scary thing is they seem really aware of it too. Like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan seem like super aware of it. They're like, there's got to be something they're doing wrong, but they also seem to be transparently telling us we don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Raymond says, if possible, compare the average amount of injuries for the NFL compared to the 49ers.
Yeah, there's a graph on Twitter that's been circulating. That graph, that graph broke my heart this weekend.
And they broke it down by games lost to injury. And I'm not exactly sure how they figured it out, but it was Football Outsiders. And basically the Niners were top 10 in most games lost due to injury, 8 seasons in a row. Last season, they were number 1. Of course.
Yeah.
But before then, in 2012, when they went to the Super Bowl, they were 32. So they had physical teams. This wasn't an issue.
Basically, I'm pretty sure the way the algorithm works is that they basically give each player a value, like a value above how much he's better than maybe the average person in his position, and then they take that value and then they assign it for if you didn't have him, how much does that affect your total team's output and score? It's a really complex analytic. It's probably not perfect, but I think one thing that's been certain is that, like, I think Niners fans, like, as a fan, I could say this, like, the bad luck didn't start with just Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Like, Jim Tom Sula had injured teams. Like, Kaepernick getting 3 surgeries definitely hurt him. Like, Navarro Bowman not being there for the last year in 2014 definitely hurt them. Chris Borland retiring due to concussions. Patrick Willis's turf toe. All of these things, like, it started, like, 6-7 years ago. I want to say it
started late 2012 when Justin Smith got hurt. That was the beginning. And Alden Smith got hurt, too, late 2012. And then 2013 – they started drafting redshirt guys. They drafted Lattimore and Tank Carradine. That's just running
Thomas.
under. Yeah, man, that's just like asking for bad luck at that point. You're just like running under ladders and stuff.
Yeah,
but
they continued it.
Yes, they did.
Kenneth Acker, Keith Reeser, even their 2012 draft, like LaMichael James had probably the largest. He injured everything in college.
Everything. But I think the main point here is that when you construct a team where at least 15 of your main contributors have serious injury histories, you're bringing bad luck on yourself. Don't call it luck at that point, because what would be luck would be a healthy season. Sorry. So, John, so we learned this together. That's why it's quality control. We're constructive criticism. Raymond, thank you. That's all we got. We can take a couple more questions if you want, or we can leave you wanting more. How's your summer vacation going so far, Vish?
It's not been summer yet. I've had other stuff to do, so I haven't really enjoyed that summer yet. But I'm taking a vacation next week, so we'll see.
You're gonna take that YouTube money to the club?
No, no. But I will be on vacation next Monday. No, I haven't seen Justin Fields out there. That's it's unfortunate. I'm hoping to meet Justin Fields, but I don't know how excited Justin Fields was to come and enjoy this Chicago weather. Because
dude, this guy has had a look on his face since he got drafted. Justin, you need to knock that off. Every picture, there was a picture of him working out with Marquise Goodwin, and Marquise Goodwin's like gesturing, like talking about something. He looks so serious, right? He looks so mad, like I'm really throwing to Marquise Goodwin. Like, yeah, you really are throwing to Marquise Goodwin.
I mean, honestly, that's the human element of it that I can like. I feel that like. I guarantee you all 5 quarterbacks in this draft, maybe not Trevor Lawrence, but the other 4 wanted to go to the Niners so badly. Oh, yeah. Like so badly just because you know how much that it's going to benefit your career. I mean, it's unequivocally the best landing spot for these quarterbacks by far. And I'm sure it sucks when you're not going there.
He just doesn't even hide it. He's got this look on his face like, God. Hey, man. Does Chicago seem excited for him, or are they already?
Oh, they're over the moon. And he is the most gifted quarterback in the history of the Bears. I mean, we're talking about a franchise that's drafted Jim Harbaugh, Cade McNown, Rex Grossman, all in the first round. You know, these guys who don't have the physical talent of a Justin Fields. They think it's fantastic, but I don't know. I thought it was irresponsible ownership to allow those 2 guys to trade up, trade future assets and go draft a quarterback when you haven't committed to them yet.
Good point. If you're going to let them leverage the future and they're not even part of the future, how? Anyway, Jesse says Shanahan needs some blame on the injuries. Yeah, it's not all Lynch and the players they bring in. It's how they're coached. He ramps up practice tackling as the season progresses. That should be opposite. Now they don't do tackling, but they do thud up, as they say, where there's contact. They just don't take players to the ground. What I remember with Harbaugh Harbaugh did start having injuries, but early on, what he would do is he would have full tackling in camp. And then I don't know if he would have just walkthroughs towards the end, but I know that Bill Walsh would do it that way back in the day. They would have physical camps and they would just do walkthroughs the rest of the year.
So I can't answer this question only because I just don't know what is good for injuries and what isn't. But what I can say about Harbaugh is, to be fair to him and the injuries they had at the end, those are also a product of the attrition of having 3 overextended seasons, because they went to 3 NFC Championship games. Yeah. Shanahan hasn't had that, and Jim Tomsula didn't have that, and Chip Kelly didn't have that. I don't know what the thing is. Maybe it's just that the Niners have a black cat running around the franchise, but boy.
I've always felt that Shanahan's that him and Chip Kelly had the lightest training camps, the hour and a half in and out. Harbaugh's were 2.5 hours. They were long. And back in the day when we were kids, before you were born, they were double days. So they've really gone from being all day marathons to 90 minutes. I mean, there's got to be an effect there. And what Jesse's saying is, okay, so you start out light. Maybe they're not quite prepared for all the collisions that happen early in the season. And then later on in the year, when they're all exhausted from all the collisions they've had, Shanahan isn't ramping down. Like maybe he needs to think about that. I don't know. But I mean, his dad must have done it the same way. I don't know.
I mean, this could be right, because this is the Chris Finke, Chase Claypool thing.
Was Chris Finke here long enough to even know how they practice?
God only knows, but Chase Claypool was
he ever on the practice squad? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Matthew, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. I think that's the show. But I just want to let everyone know the Niners are playing in Chicago this year. I'm be flying out my wife and taking Vish out for dinner, so that I'm be meeting Vish for the first time. I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I am too.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. The schedule comes out this Wednesday. I'll be booking my flights and stuff then, and then Jesse and I will be on at night explaining exactly which games the Niners are going to win, which games are going to lose.
My fingers are crossed that Chicago game is September or early October.
So it's not like just totally freezing cold.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a special level of human being and fan to go sit out there because the stadium sucks. Soldier
I don't know
Field
anything
is
about
like
Chicago.
it's an ancient museum. Like it's like an ancient stadium. So like
I've been to Lambeau. Lambeau's cool, even though it's old. I like Lambeau.
I mean,
It was charming.
I guess it could be kind of cool, but it's freezing in the
Oh,
stadium.
I would
Like,
imagine. It's freezing.
like it's freezing in the stadium if you go to a game. Like I went to a preseason game and like it's like 60, 65-degree weather. You know, the players aren't wearing sleeves or anything. But by the time like you get to like later in the game, it was actually Niners versus Bears. Walt Harris had a pick 6 in that game. But
Walt Harris.
Yeah,
Wow.
2000. Walt Harris was one of my favorite players when I was a kid because he used to get a lot of interceptions
for
whatever reason when he was on the Niners. Yeah, but random tangent. But the point is, by like midway through the third quarter, it was freezing.
Yeah.
And so like imagine like it takes a special level of human being to sit through the
your heart
game.
stopped. I heard you died for about 20 seconds. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I died out there.
Freezing.
It was that cold, man. No, I can't. I go to New York sometimes in the winter, and I'm like, this is not fit for human beings. And I understand that Chicago's much, much, much colder. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of debate here about my height. That's the reason I paused. I'm 5'11".
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm 6 feet and a half inch, but I definitely call myself 6'1" because 6 feet and 1/2 inch. You can't say that.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, I'm 5'11". I'm still trying to get my mind to like wrap around the fact that I'm 5'11", so I'm supposed to say 6 feet.
Yeah, can't you round up? If you have a half inch, round up. I round up.
Yeah, I mean,
supposed to round up.
Yeah, I mean, like because you're
especially if you give yourself a little hair, a little extra hair,
yeah.
You're good. You know.
It's not even that. Like nobody can verify whether you're actually 5'11" or 6 feet. So if you're 5'11", you're always 6 feet. But if you're like 6'7", you want to be 6'6".
That's true. Is Jason 6'7"?
I think Jason's like 6'5". I did not expect Jason to be that tall. I'm not gonna lie. But then
it's
again,
impossible to tell on StreamYard. It's impossible to tell. You could have said you were 5'2". I would have been like, oh, okay, all right. Well, if you say so.
Yeah. I mean, you're only seeing the top like 1/4 of me, so.
Oh, Sean, right at the buzzer. Jesus, let it be in September so Vish can prove he is a fan. Vish, look at the 88 NFC Championship game, Niners versus Chicago. Can't even see the games. No.
Hey, Sean, you're special if you went to that game. I don't got that kind of toughness. I prefer to just be in a room with the TV, watch the broadcast, and then on the Tuesday when the film comes out, just watch that. And that's my.
I remember being at Lambeau in the playoffs when Kaepernick was playing that game and sitting in the press box.
Oh, you were at that game?
I was at that game. I remember it was a night. It was a late game. I remember it was during the polar vortex. It was so freaking cold, and that place was packed. And I remember sitting there thinking, these people are insane. They're crazy.
So during that game, I was in India. So I'm flying back from India during that game. So like in between, like I found a computer and I was like streaming that game, like the beginning, Kaepernick's out there showing off his guns. But the reason I'm bringing this up, because you brought up the polar vortex. After we landed we were stuck in the airport to get our bags for 2.5 hours because it was so cold that the machine stopped working. And so people had to manually carry bags and bring them in. And for a person to be warm enough to do that, they can only get like 2 bags at a time, and it took so long. So like it took 2.5 hours for us to get our bags. It was brutal.
I remember trying to pump the car up with gas during the polar vortex, and just those 2 minutes were enough to make you feel like you're gonna die. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you run back in the car, but the car's cold too, and you're sitting there like, oh my god, I gotta get back to California.
The polar vortex was the one where I remember all my friends were doing the little experiment where you just throw hot water in the air and it turns into ice, and
Yeah, man, that was wild. Matthew says, can we get Kyle to go to Georgia Tech and steal some plays from the triple option, the wishbone offense, and have Trey, and other Debo or Brandon? I just think they need one more Trey. If they had 3 Treys, a tray of a Trey, I mean, that would be amazing. They got 2. That's pretty cool. Do you think they did it on purpose? Do you think they're like, hey, we're going to get another Trey? We're going to get another Trey. 2 Treys. Well,
I do.
like that?
I actually think this wishbone idea is funny because I actually think I don't think we'll see like, the triple option or wishbone, but I think we are going to see some really, really cool stuff when Trey Lance plays this year with the run game because he's pretty spectacular as a runner. Sermon's kind of special in his own way. Mostert's still a home run hitter. Wilson's got something to him, and then we know how great Debo is. So, yeah.
And remember that Mike McDaniel theoretically has been promoted from run game coordinator to offensive coordinator. If he has more creative input on the offense, he might just geek out and take this run game to whole different levels, which would be cool because I think he's the kind of guy who he's one of the more interesting, unheralded coaches in the league. He might be the brains behind the operation in San Francisco. I give the Shanahans credit for their play action game. It's great. But this run game that they have in San Francisco is very different from what Mike was doing.
Yeah, they take it to a level above.
Yeah, and I think it might be this guy, Mike. So we'll see what he's got this year.
I think that it's Kyle, but I think that from all accounts, and Grant, I think you would attest to this too. Everybody says that there's something genius about Mike McDaniel in terms of coming up with this run game. So
I mean, he's the one who went to Yale, and I think that McDaniel and Shanahan have been working together like every year except for one or two. That's been his right-hand man. To use a dated Star Trek reference, if Shanahan's Captain Kirk, McDaniel might be Spock. He might be the genius behind the whole thing. The thing about him is he looks 11. He's not. He's Shanahan's age. He looks 11, and I don't know that an ownership group will look at him as a potential head coach one day. Although maybe they're missing out. It's like Mike Shanahan's about 5'4". That's something you don't know about Mike Shanahan. He's tiny. I don't know where
Kyle Shanahan actually 5'4".
He looks like it, man. He's tiny. I heard he wore lifts when he was a coach, so he would look taller. He's so small.
Really, I did not.
Super duper small. Yeah, he's like Tom Cruise small. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wow. So I think together they're like the two.
Yeah.
I think they're the two truly special run game guys out of all of them.
And I think they're super competitive with Greg Roman, who's been taking the crown the last few years because his offense ran for 3,000 yards last year.
Yeah, they're better than him in the run game. Yeah, they're better.
Well, I mean, they really commit to it. And the Niners, it's hard to say what they want to do. This year, I think it's clear what they want to do. They want to take the crown on the ground, and I think they can if they get Trey Lance in there quickly.
Right. And I think one of the things that people get upset when you talk about this, like, it's as if you're diminishing Trey Lance as a passer. Well, no, first of all, he's still a really talented passer and he still could be a very, very good passer. There's just a little more inconsistencies and there's a little more time than he needs for growth. But in terms of his running, like, that's not a bad, I don't know why there's a taboo with talking about the rushing ability of a quarterback. Like, crap, Cam Newton's not a good quarterback. Let's only look at him by his passing stats. Well, the 13 rushing touchdowns he gives you yearly count for something.
When Steve Young was running for 500 yards a season, Niner fans liked it. I was looking at a stat yesterday. Steve Young, when he was 37, ran for like 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. Meanwhile, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's stuck at like 114 yards for his career. I'm really looking forward to Trey Lance. It's time that we get a mobile guy back. I think a 49ers quarterback has to be a little mobile. Even Joe Montana hit the most famous throw of his career was rolling right, fading away.
I always thought Joe Montana was more talented than he got credit for. Like, if you go back and watch him, he's got this beautiful, graceful, quick release. He's pretty fast. He's a pretty good athlete. Like,
yes. No, yeah. Like, I didn't grow up in that time. I didn't watch Joe Montana. I watched him growing up. But if you go back and watch Joe Montana games, like go back and watch the 1981 NFC Championship game against the Cowboys. It's one of the first things I did when the world shut down during the pandemic was go back and watch old stuff. You'll be surprised at how athletic that dude is. You're like, wow, I never thought of Joe Montana as an athlete. He's 25 and he's really athletic on the field.
And that's the problem, right? Everybody pigeonholes these guys who are a little less heralded to fit the narrative of like they're the David that overcame the Goliath of the NFL. So like Tom Brady is this talentless nobody who made it, but the reality of Tom Brady is that he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. That's why he went to Michigan. He
drafted
played
by 2 professional leagues.
He was drafted by the MLB. He's got a really, really strong arm. And yeah, so he is more talented. And I think Montana's kind of the same way. Like, I mean, I didn't watch Montana live, obviously. Like, he retired before I even knew what the NFL was. But there's enough games on YouTube where you go back and watch. And this, to me, this isn't right. This isn't just a guy who who had no arm strength or blah, blah, blah. Like, he's ridiculously accurate. He had a quick release. He was pretty athletic. He moved really well. And like, in terms of his arm strength, like, he didn't have a John Elway cannon, but he really could put it anywhere. Like, the Giants game, he puts the one where he got hit the whole game, and then he hits Jerry Rice for like a 70-yard touchdown, and they win in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
After taking a sack, like, that's basically a hole shot that he puts right before the safety gets there in stride of Jerry Rice. It's like a 55-yard throw, and he rips it clean with great trajectory and velocity. Like, this isn't just some like scrub who became good because Bill Walsh spotted him or whatever. He's talented, very talented in his own right.
Yeah, go back and watch younger Montana, especially the one like before the back surgeries or whatever. He was really athletic. And Steve Young at 37 was more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo has ever been in his life. It's time to bring it back. Trey Lance is in the tradition of Niner quarterbacks. That's why I think locally people are being positive. Like, he's the kind of guy you want to work out. Like, why would you root against him?
100%. Like, just as a human being.
Yeah.
There's a lot
of pressure on his shoulders. He's like, it's like being drafted to play shortstop by the Yankees, or it's a lot of pressure. But he's 20. Everyone's like, all right, we're in your corner here. Kind of like how Warrior fans were for James Wiseman. That didn't go so well. But I think Trey Lance is going to have
19.
It's true.
I'm not even a Niners fan, but it's impossible.
Whoa, Jay, don't. Seth says, don't forget about Bobby Turner. He's 70, run game genius. That's true. There's a lot of people that are going into making this run game special. Anyway.
I mean, Chris Forrester is very well respected. Like, if you ask Mike Shanahan about his Washington staff, he'll rattle off his son, McVay, Matt LaFleur. He always mentions Forrester, who's a great coach. So,
respected was an interesting choice of words. He's definitely something. Is he respected? To a degree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. For a guy that had the ugly situation they had, and for the Niners to then immediately pounce on the opportunity to bring him onto their staff.
He's definitely good at his it's hard to say. He's good at coaching offensive line, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Apparently.
So, and he couldn't be worse than the guy the Niners let go to the Jets, because I was questioning John Benton. I don't know, man. No really player got better under John Benton that I can think of. But he's not our problem anymore.
He really got Trent Williams to play well.
Absolutely. I think Trent Williams, when he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, is going to say, look, guys, I was decent, but John Benton is the real MVP here.
But that's where prior to this year, I thought like people were overblowing Kasarik a little bit too much, because Kasarik got DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa, and Dee Ford to play great football. Like, whoa. And then you watched him this year and you saw what he did with Kevin Givens, and you're like, he's every bit as deserving of that. But I do think that's always important to consider when you're looking at position coaches, because sometimes people are just special. Like, Billy O'Brien looked like an offensive genius when he was Tom Brady's offensive coordinator.
All right, it's heading up on lunchtime. People need to go get away from their desk and go get some pizza or burrito. So I think everyone, thanks for watching. Yeah,
they got to catch up on the work they missed for the last hour and 22 minutes.
We sincerely apologize for impacting your productivity. We're done for now. I'll be back later on the day. I don't know what I'm going to do later, but I'll always think of something. We did a pretty good job getting an hour and a half out of a down week. Next week, it's going to be an off-season training program, which we didn't have last year. I'm freaking excited. Fish, thank you very much.
And I'll message you if I'm free. Maybe we can have you on and do something with the schedule.
Absolutely. I owe you
on my
channel.
Definitely owe you.
Yep. Let's do one this week.
All right, for sure.
Thanks, everyone.